My name is Kuldeep. I am your trainer. I welcome you to the CCI Enterprise Wireless Training by Nitiz Sharma Global Tech. Alright, so what we are going to cover in this demo lecture are some of the things about your CCI Enterprise Wireless Lab exam journey, right? So first of all, let's know that this is going to be an end-to-end training. It means first we'll be preparing ourselves all together for what? My technology sessions. All right. So I'll be covering as I'll show you what Cisco expect us from this, enterprise wireless perspective. So we'll see that there are some 5 to 6 different key areas that we need to be very good at. So we'll start from the RF theory or the RF basics, the radio frequency, electromagnetic waves and all that, channel bands, bandwidth, beam width, gain, all these things, right? What is the loss, dBm, dB, all these things which are essential from the wireless perspective. Then we'll see the wired network, enterprise wired network, because basically your wireless enterprise wireless network will be founded on the existing wired network. So, the understanding of this is quite crucial. So we'll start from here only, right? We cannot directly jump to the wireless enterprise network, right? After that come your enterprise wireless network basically, right? And then there we'll see that which controllers will discuss, which APs will discuss, which AP boards and controller boards will discuss, what other different technologies are there. All that will come there, right? The wireless specific part, the core wireless part. Then it will be about all the multimedia and application, the services running over the wireless networks. Then we'll talk about the tools like CMX, the Prime, we'll see the role of them, and they will be discussed, and later on we'll see that Cisco has changed this game of wireless networking, the certification, and they have introduced this CCI wireless full-fledged certification, and there we'll see that they are more focused on in this enterprise part. We'll see one which is your software defined networking, and under that for enterprises we have a solution by Cisco for automation which is software defined access based on the formerly known as DNAC and now also known as Cisco Catalyst Center. Okay, so these tools are losing their relevance today. So you'll see that they are removed from the next version of the CCI lab. But still, it is there up to March next year, 2026. So we'll see that how this course is going to be. It will be a mix of the old and new. If we can finish it on time, right? So then it will be just the old one. And if you are preparing for the new lab, then we can adjust as per that. So yeah, it will be a feedback based and kind of an experiment. We can see that for majority of the people in this batch, how they want to do, right? Because see, not everybody is taking this training for the lab. Not everybody is here just for the technology. So we'll see. And this is just a demo. And as per the feedback and what should I say, the necessity for everybody, or we can separate the batches. Let's say if people are interested more and more in both, we can have a separate batch for the old technology and we can have a separate new batch for the newer one, or we can touch the irrelevant older technologies a little bit and we can focus more and more on the newer introduced technology. We'll see how it will go, right? But yeah, that's what it is going to be there, and not a much has been changed. I should not say that. Basically, not a much has been changed in such a way that if we focus on the old way of technology or old whatever content is there, it should not be a problem for us to migrate to the new one or to adjust or to grasp the new one. That's what I meant to say, right? So like the Meraki part. So let me complete this part here. What is also there? Your automation and assurance part. So this is basically what is there. In the new one, we'll see. I'll show you the release notes, what has changed, what has been added, what has been removed, and all that. So yeah, we'll talk about maybe this lecture, this demo, maybe in some different session because that can be lengthy. It can take time, 1 hour, maybe more than 1 hour to explain everything. But yes, one thing that I can remember on top of my head is they have added the cloud solution, Meraki. They have removed your Air OS, so there is no 3500 controller now. They have removed the other APs out there which were there, and now they are only 9100 series APs are being added. These are the things that I can remember right now. I hope you got the point. So this is what we are going to discuss in these all 3.5 or 4 month technology session. When I said this is one end-to-end training, it means this will be there. First, we'll focus on that, and then we'll focus on the lab prep part. So you understand what I mean by that, right? So this will be about your lab practice where we'll prepare you for your CCIE Enterprise Wireless number. I hope that part is clear. Okay, what next? From the prerequisite perspective, I don't expect much. What I expect is the elementary or basic wireless. All right. So if you are good with CCNA wireless, if you have that much, foundational knowledge of the wireless networking, that's good for me. But that's just that it will not do. Your CCNA level, let's say the basic routing switching, uh, that part should be good because see, we have this enterprise wired network because I have already said based on this will be their or your enterprise wireless network. So this part I will cover, no doubt, but still I expect that you know what is IP. I expect you know what is subnetting, all these things, right? So I'm not going to touch from like very CCNA basic level. What I generally does, if I say that when I touch a new technology, for example, the very first class will be from CCNA level. All right, just the touching of the technology, what terminologies, what basics, how we started, how we got up here, what we are planning to go beyond that, what features are being added, like that. Then slowly and slowly we move up to the advanced difficult topics and we increase the pace and the difficulty level. So yeah, we kind of start from the scratch, but not like everything we can cover in here. I hope you understand that. So this is from the prerequisite part and then technology. If I say the technology part, what we are going to discuss. Okay, we'll see. So let me focus more about from the core wireless perspective, right? What we are going to cover. So if I say that if you have a, small office and home office network, so what we generally have, we have one internet connection, ISP or internet, whatever you say, and you have the AP here, and this is a single device having many functions, multiple functions, right? Why we say that? Let's come to that. But before that, let's say this is my home office, just 5, 10 devices, 15 devices, 20 devices, okay? Let's say this is my small office, or let's say it is my home. I'm just using internet at my home. So you know that Wi-Fi router that we call modem that we generally call, in layman language, all of those are the wireless access points. Okay. So when I say one device, many functions, why? This device itself is kind of acting as a router to you because it is doing what? The NAT part means here this side, it will be your private network, RFC 1918, 10, 172, 16, up to 31 or 192.68.0.02 So this will be used in the private side of your network, right? But when you are going outside to run internet, it need to be converted to the public, right? So what is needed here? That this is a different network, this is a different network, right? So this router is also, this device is also working as kind of what? Inter-networking router. Okay. What else? This is I can a device somewhere I can do the ACL in some higher end. APs, we can do the ACL. Okay, so there is a lot we can do with this device, but basically this is a device which is AP, wireless access point. It provide you this wireless capability, and my PCs, my laptop, and let's say my mobile phones, my wireless printer, they all can get connected to this wirelessly. So that's the main basic function of this. That's why it is called WAP, or wireless access point. So, what is the disadvantage of this one? This can provide just a single internal network. What do I mean by that? Let's say you are using 192.168.1.0. This is a single subnet or a single VLAN, you can say. And here you cannot segment your network. You cannot say that here I'm saying like my printer VLAN is a different one. And for that, I need a different SSID. No, you want your, let's say, servers in a different SSID, different VLAN. So that is not basically the strength this AP has. All right. So this kind of AP is known as what? As a standalone AP. And they are perfect. They work very well, quite well actually, in your small office and home office setups. But the limitation comes when you want to use them in some, mid-sized networks or even in the enterprise networks. So you cannot take advantage of the features that are required in those kind of networks, which we'll talk about soon. All right, so yeah, that's what I can think of right now about these APs. More and more, maybe will be able to relate when we'll be going to the other APs, right? Now, let's try to understand these autonomous AP. Autonomous and enterprise, what is the difference basically? So if I say autonomous means AP by AP, per AP configuration. If you see here from the last point, per AP, let's say you have a, multiple floor building and hundreds and thousands of users. Let's say I have one AP here. I have another AP here, right? And like this, you have 10, 20, 50, up to 100 APs, right? So what happens here, the benefit, okay, or how they are better than these standalone APs. So first, let's talk about that. So let's take just the example of one AP. So let's start from the basic. So on this AP, you can create multiple SSIDs. Let's say in your office, you have 100 users, or let's say you have 500, 200 users, depending upon the size and scale of your network. And you are saying that you have different kind of what traffic or users or department, whatever. Let's say you want to have a separate SSID for HR. You want to have a separate SSID for sales, a separate SSID and VLAN or subnet for, what should I say, guest and marketing. All right. So they support this. They support different subnets. So let's say for HR, I can go with VLAN 10, sales 20, 30, 40. And I can say this network here is 10.1.10.0, 10.1.20.0/24, and you got my point, right? 10.1.40.0. So this is possible with these autonomous APs. I can create multiple SSIDs, I can configure multiple VLANs and subnets, but this is not a common solution. Why is that? Because let's say if we have multiple floors, multiple building, even in a single crowded building, if I have 50 to 100 APs and they are configured one by one, you will take the console and you'll configure first AP, second AP, third AP. And let's say you need to add some SSID sometime, right? So you need to do that for all 50 APs one by one. So that's a headache. So this management, this configuration is not so easy of these autonomous access points, right? And that's why they are not a recommended solution. This lightweight AP based solution is your recommended solution for the enterprise network. So that is what's going to be the focus of our technology classes. So we'll discuss They have autonomous AP in the blueprint in the older one, but I believe it's not there in the new one. But still, we'll touch a little bit about autonomous AP. But my main focus will be on the lightweight AP, which is important from your lab exam perspective as well. So most of your exam is about the lightweight and the enterprise section, right? So what it provides us or how it is beneficial for us so that we or people are, I should not say crazy about them, but they are more useful in what way? Let's talk about that. Crazy in the sense because it makes the life of network engineers and people who work around the wireless networks a lot, whole lot easier, right? So let's understand how. So let's say if we have these switches, right? All my access switches where I connect my APs. So this is basically your distribution system that we call. And as such, let's say if you have 500 or even 5,000, 10,000 APs, right? And to your distribution system, they are connected like this. And somewhere with the reachability to rest of the network, you have a centralized controller. So this lightweight AP, how it is called lightweight? Because some basic function are given to the APs and more, functions are centralized, all your configuration and management. And that centralized location device where it is done is WLC, a wireless LAN controller. It is connected wired, right? By wired on the switch interface. It is just known as wireless LAN controller. Why? Because what is WLAN? By SSID, right? So you will not go to each and every AP to create whatever number of SSIDs or WLANs that you need. No, where that will be configured centrally on your controller. So that is one way we call that device as a wireless LAN controller or a WLC. All right. So I don't need to separately configure 500, 5,000 APs that can be done from this device. And they are basically the zero touch provisioned based devices. You'll simply connect your APs to your distribution system, to your switch ports. And generally, we'll talk about that this is your central switching example. So if I say about this one, so this is your access port, this is your trunk port. I'll come to that, but just understanding the architecture behind it. Um, so yeah, what happens? The APs are connected here, and when they are connected, so depending upon either you have configured your DHCP server on the switches, the routers, layer 3 devices, or a separate dedicated Windows server for DHCP role is there. But the point is there is a DHCP server in your network. So the APs will get the IP of WLC. We'll discuss there are different mechanisms for that. We have DNS resolution, we have option 43, where the WLC IP is given. Let's say the WLC IP is 10.1.1. So in option 43, along with the other parameters. So let's say the DHCP server is giving me what parameters? IP, mask, gateway, DNS, and along with that, what also is given as my WLC IP. So when this AP get to know, okay, in my domain, who is the WLC, so we'll discuss the process of this AP joining with the WLC. That is, detailed, interesting topic. We'll get to there and we'll see that, okay, if everything is good, then this AP will be registered on WLC, and that will happen for all the APs. So this WLC will be having a list of all the APs, right? So that comes later on for the management. In a better way, we can create the IP groups as well. We can put some of the IPs in one group, another IPs in another group. We can have different AP, RF groups and all. So which makes our life from the configuration and management perspective a lot easier. Now you can understand how WLC is a lifesaver in these bigger enterprise networks, right? Five different SSIDs if it is needed. I will just go to one device, WLC. I'll create five SSIDs. and I'll push that down, then that will be given to the APs to be configured. And that happens how? Using which protocol? That is CAPWAP. So over your distribution system for control and data, that a protocol is used. Okay, an overlay kind of protocol is used, that is your control and provisioning of wireless access point. We'll talk a lot about this CAPWAP. So that's how this WLC manages, configures these APs. Now, talking about the flow of data, the traffic flow in the wireless network. Centralized for APs, common solution. This is good. So, how it happens? Let's say, so first let's understand the physical aspect and then we'll understand the logical aspect of it. So, for example, let's say I have a switch here, okay? And on the switch, I have some ports here, obviously, like this. And somewhere I have a WLC connected with the management interface. We'll discuss what that is. And let's say I have some AP or APs, okay? And we'll be having a VLAN dedicated, subnet dedicated for that. And let's say I have the need for some sales. So if I say these are my sales devices, and I can also have some marketing devices. Okay. So for sales, let's say I'm using VLAN 10. For marketing, let's say we are using VLAN 20. And let's say for this one, we are using VLAN 50. Okay. All right. So what happens? This is what? Physical connection. And also to complete the picture, let's say I have some layer 3 device as well. So layer 3 switch or a router. So simply let's draw a router here. And this has kind of 2, 3 connections here. Whatever number of VLANs and subnet do you require? What happens? So when I talk about this central switching or centralized switching, which is the default by the way, in case of WLC based, architectures. So what happens? Let's say your AP has been registered with WLC. Okay, all that initial part is done. It has boot up, found the WLC, joined the WLC. If it was in need of upgrading the image and all, so that part will come later on, by the way. But what can happen if AP is running a different OS version than the WLC? So WLC can push the image that it is running on. So they should be capable. They should be compatible actually. Their images should be the compatible ones. If it is great, otherwise AP will need to install a new one, download and install a new one from WLC as per WLC. All right. So if that part is done, then we'll talk about the data flow. And by the way, this lightweight AP and autonomous AP, so don't think like they are separate hardware or something. Same device can be used as autonomous AP and lightweight. It is just the difference of the OS they are using, right? So this is a software based configuration, not some hardware. All right, so let's say my AP is registered with WLC. WLC knows this and all such APs. All right. So these VLAN 1020 devices, VLANs in different SSIDs can be on the same AP or different APs until unless they are reachable and all that. Wired enterprise network part is already taken care of. And that's why you will see that that part I'll cover initially. So maybe I'll start with that, or maybe I'll start with my RF basics and then I'll come to the wired enterprise network. But that is for sure. Wireless enterprise I'll touch after the wired enterprise, right? Because you can understand that my STP should be in place, my trunking access. So let's say this port will be trunk. We'll understand why this port should be access in this one. We'll see now, in a moment why. So my access trunk, encapsulation, decapsulation, all those, right, should be in place. I should know about that. And we are tested on that in the lab as well. So we cannot skip that part. It should be good, right? But anyway, now if I see that how it happens. All right. So physical, this part is there. If we talk about the logical, so it should be like this. If you have a router here, one interface is where you have the WLC and the AP. One subnet, one VLAN, you can say. Then another is where you have what? Your PCs of, what should I say, the VLAN 10 sales, and another where you have devices of VLAN 20, let's say, marketing. All right. So this is like your virtual. Why I'm saying this? To understand this part. See, let's say you want to go from some device comes here. Let's say a device, mobile phone or some PC, some laptop comes, and this device want to go to some device in VLAN 10 here. All right. So what will happen? Your request will go, let's say, on this access interface on the switch, and then from there it will go. I'm just simplifying it, okay? All the header encapsulation and whatever will be there, that will come later on. So actually it is like your data, then it will be your layer 3 information, layer 2 information, then it will be the AP, the WLC. So that part, I'm just simplifying. I hope you understand that. Just once, if I'm good with my basic understanding, then I can talk about that part. So the point is, when it tries to connect there, so this is central switching default. It means whatever you want to do, wherever you want to go, first WLC should be aware of that. Okay. WLC will understand that the device from that AP, maybe that AP is in some different AP group with some different RF profile, security setting, authentication mechanisms, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, where we'll, put eyes into the picture. But yeah, it will then switch it or route it as per where it want to go. So this port is trunk. Why? Because here it is receiving from which VLAN. Let's say VLAN 50, but it is interested in going where? In VLAN 10. So WLC will encapsulate it in a different VLAN tag for VLAN 10. So this interface should be able to understand the tag. That's why this is a trunk. It's not necessary in centralized switching for this interface. That's why this is an access interface. And from there, it will be forwarded like this. All right. So that will depend, like it need to be routed further, how deep or something in your distribution system, but that's how it goes. So your WLC is burdened for all the traffic in the central switching mechanism, or the switching mechanism based on the central WLC based. So this is typical when you are using it in some office or some larger office or enterprise or the campus at a site. But there is one more application of this where you can use the flex connect or local switching. Let's say you have one headquarter here, okay? And this headquarter, I have a WLC, the firewall and everything. And then I have some different branches, okay? And these branches are small sites. There, I don't want to invest in separate firewalls and WLCs. So if I have the APs there, this is my AP. So this AP, if it want to go to the internet and maybe some private networking, the user connected here. So this is the flow of traffic. First go to, if I just say it simply like this. So first I need to go to my WLC and then my traffic will come back. Okay, like this. But for one site, you don't need to burden your WAN bandwidth. Okay, your AP itself can do the switching. So that part is known as what? The local switching. From the WLC configuration, control part will be WLC based, but the data part will be just local via the AP. So there you will say that, okay, this AP will be configured as what? As a flex connect mode AP. So that configuration, when it is pushed down by the WLC, then the switching of VLAN 10 to 20 that will be based on or done by this AP itself. And at that time, the switch port that you are connecting your AP with, that will be a trunk in this case. Why? Because now the AP need to do the switching from one VLAN to another VLAN. I hope that makes sense. So in these such scenarios, it is a perfect use case for flex connect kind of switching mechanism. All good so far, right? What next? Next, if I want to talk about the security in my wireless network, which is a prime concern, and that's why you will find that there is no wireless implementation which is complete without, if I just do it a little bit here, ICE. Okay. So ICE is a central piece of wireless enterprise networking. Why? Because let's say I have a WLC here. Okay. And I have my set of APs, all right, whatever number. And somehow by this distribution system, they are connected and managed by the WLC. Now, when a user comes, a user logs in, right, or try to log in or try to access my wireless network, they will try to access their particular VLAN. Not, I should say VLAN, but the WLAN, SSID. Okay, let's talk about a campus where I have what? From this WLC, I have pushed down the SSIDs like VIP for management users, teachers or trainers for the trainers, and students, obviously for the students. If I talk about these three, then you'll see that this particular user here will see all these three, but only the user name and password will be given to this device for that particular SSID. Let's say this is a student logging in, then that student is, let's say, Ram. So Ram at the rate 123 hash is the password. Now this username password is stored where? That is interesting. Where it will be identified, where it will be authenticated. So that is based on your AAA server, authentication, authorization, and accounting server. So either your WLC itself can act as a AAA, all right, but that doesn't give you that much power. What ICE can give you as an external AAA. All right, so what does that mean? Let's say if I integrate my WLC with another Cisco security product, which is Identity Service Engine ICE, and there I create my username and password database. So this RAM and this, whatever number of user we have is created here. So from here, when I try to log in, I put my username, my password. This request goes from here to here, then from my distribution system to this, and then here. So the authentication is provided by this external AAA server, which is ICE. Now, how this is beneficial, all right? Why no wireless implementation is complete without ICE, or why ICE is a such an important component of the wireless networking that you cannot pass. That's a guarantee thing, okay? You cannot get your CCI wireless number without being very good at the ICE. And you will find when you will get through this course more and more that ICE has more portion to be discussed, to be taught in the wireless domain than it is having even in the CCI security module. So that is a surprising truth, but yeah, it's true. So ICE is one very important aspect. So this ICE portion first, and second I'll come to this. These are the USPs of this. If you just do this wireless training, let's say you go for the wireless training and you are getting a good knowledge of ICE and this SDN product, it will be like I don't know how to say it in English in a particular word. Paisa vasool we say in Hindi. But yeah, I hope you got the point. This is worth for every penny of your money. I'll get more and more into these things, but let me just complete the discussion that I have started. So what I was saying, yeah, one benefit or one advantage or one thing that ICE provides is that I cannot get without ICE. Let's talk about that. And that will give you a clarity of the concept. So for example, let's say right now I need different WLANs, all right? For that, I need different VLANs, all right? I need different subnets. And if you are doing it based on WLC, there is no ICE involved. Then you need to configure those WLANs and those VLANs, all of them separately, right? All of them. If you have 5, 10 different WLANs those needed to be configured. For that, your interfaces, logical interfaces will be needed to be configured on WLC. We'll talk about the ports and interfaces, what they are, when we'll start talking about the WLCs and APs. But yes, you need interfaces, you need to map them to the VLAN IDs, you need to provide the IP addresses, you need to provide the different security and RF configuration. So that can be overwhelming at times. All right. Now let's bring the eyes in picture. So when you bring eyes or you integrate your DNAC, sorry, not DNAC, I should say, your WLC with the eyes, what happens? So let's say I integrate these, right? So from ICE, you can create a single SSID. Let's say you created SSID name as employees, all right? If I talk about just some office network. So from there, if you'll see here, I have those three A's, right? Authentication. So first in ICE, you will find that will configure the authentication policies, wired, wireless, MAB, and all. We'll talk about that. Then we say authorization. There, authorization means who can do what, right? So we'll create my authorization profiles. This user, based on this username and password, has what power, what flexibility, what capability to do in this wireless network. What you want to allow for that user to do, right? Whenever he is logged in. And accounting. Obviously, what he or she has done, that should be logged in here, right? You should be having idea about that. So that's a way of track your users and their activities. Now coming back here, if I create a single SSID and when you create the authorization profile, in that authorization profile, you can define different operations. Let's say you can say that these username and passwords based users, they can access only this VLAN. They can access only this VLAN. And with these VLANs, you will assign the different WLANs. So let's say if they are getting VLAN 31, they will be part of your WLAN, what should I say, HR, right? They are the employee of HR domain or department. Let's say they are getting this from the authorization profile by ICE via WLC. So they are part of, let's say, sales. So how many different WLANs I configured? Just one, and under that I can define the policies. Remember, these are all the policies you will find. All of this is configured on the ICE. I hope that makes sense. So just under one, different VLANs, different roles, different uh, what should I say? Departments, right? Can be configured without configuring separate WLANs and all on the WLC for all the APs. I hope that makes sense. More and more of it will make sense only when we'll be able to do that. If some of you is having some little bit of the prior experience with the WLCs or APs, for them it will be making more and more sense. Otherwise, who are just getting started, so I can understand. It can be overwhelming, it can be confusing. But yes, you'll enjoy it. That's a guarantee. It's entirely, different domain, different challenges, different rewards, and a lot to learn and implement and to, grow with. Fantastic, right? But yeah, coming back, because see, today, most of your end devices are wireless, right? So you can understand the importance of this wireless networking. So what I wanted to discuss next. All this part is we are done with, I believe. Let's talk about SDN and SDA, how this comes into picture. Let's say talk about bigger and bigger enterprises, all right? You just don't have one or two WLCs. No, you have 5 to 10 WLCs, all right? So like earlier, there was a challenge of managing and configuring the APs altogether one by one. Now there is a challenge for managing and configuring the WLCs one by one. All right. All the WLAN settings, all the security settings, all the authentication side. And by the way, what I have discussed earlier, I forgot to mention a thing or two. Your authentication will see that either it can be based on the WLC, ICE, or even it can be at the AP level itself. Okay, so we'll talk a lot more about all these things. But let's come back here and let me give you a last idea about this SDN. How does this fits into here in wireless networking and how this is a game changer and how your normal, this enterprise wireless is different than your normal wireless. So earlier you have said it wireless, all right? CCI wireless. But what is the difference in the CCI enterprise wireless? So this is the difference. This is the game changer. So when Cisco introduced this SDA, this SDN part based on the controller based networking. So that's when they started calling it enterprise wireless. So let me get into that. All right. So these controllers where your each controller, let's say, is managing 2000, 3000, 4000, 5000. So there are different deployment models of, okay, WLCs we'll talk about. So one can be centralized, dedicated, also you can say. Then it is your embedded, then it is your cloud-based, then it is your mobility express. So we talk about that, but just to understand a little bit, when you have a hardware controller, all right, so that is your centralized solution. When you have a VM and on that you install the license of this WLC, that it is your cloud-based. Cloud-based doesn't mean the public cloud or something. You can have your own data center. There you have a ESXi-based virtual machine and you can install the license purchased from Cisco. All right, so this is a software solution. And you can have in SDA especially, we'll talk about, there are certain switches like 9300 switch, which can be configured with or which can be configured as a controller. So this is SDA aware switch, which can be configured as a WLC. All right. So if you have need for less number of APs to be configured and managed, you don't need to buy full-fledged software or hardware solution. No, you can just have a switch and convert it into the wireless controller and you can manage your network. If you have less than that, you can have a AP itself working as a controller. So that is a mobility express solution. So these things will also come under when we'll start talking about things, but I just thought I should bring it up. And why I brought it up? Because here when I said this number of APs, so each solution has different capability. Let's say hardware based, I believe it can manage up to 6000 APs. Software based, 3000. Embedded and ME, these are in hundreds, I believe. 200, 100, if I'm not wrong. Something like this. All right, so coming back here, if this controller, one controller is managing like this, and there are different such controllers, so who will be managing your controllers? All right, so in SD and software defined networking, we have what? We have a controller here, controller which we call, earlier it was DNAC, but now we call it Cisco Catalyst Center. This is at the reachability from your controllers, all right? And now, if I give you a perspective, na, so let's get back to the wired world, okay? Enterprise wired network. Because this SDA solution is not just for wireless, okay? If I start from start, so your SDN, software defined networking or a controller based networking, it was it is a buzz from last some time around, and there are not many people in the entire world who are, I should not say good with this, but who are having the basic understanding or knowledge of this. That's why I said earlier, if you just get this one good, I said this part, it will be like worth every penny of this, the entire fees of the entire course. All right, it is in that much demand from your career perspective and even from your lab. exam perspective, both. Now coming back, Cisco work on intent-based networking. So they have, like they said, we have different network types, all right? So we have a wide area network, okay? We have enterprise or campus networks. We have the data center networks. Each network have different challenge, different need, problem to be solved. So they said we are not creating a single controller to manage and configure and automate all the networks. They said no, we are creating different controller or controllers. For data center, the product name they said that will be branding it as a name of ACI, application centric infrastructure. This is just a name of the solution. Name of solution. Similarly, for enterprise and campus networks, the name of solution they said is SDA, software defined access. So this is an interesting story why this is called software defined access. We'll get into that later on. But yes, for WAN, the product name is SD-WAN, name of the solution. Now, which controller or controllers makes this possible? In data center, it is Epic. In enterprise, this is again DNAC or Cisco Catalyst Center. In wide area network, in SD-WAN, we have three different controller for three different or like different responsibilities. This is vManage, vSmart, vBound. Now they are called Catalyst Manager, Catalyst Controller, and Catalyst Validator or something like that. So Cisco has renamed and rebranded everything around the Catalyst family. They have, developed their hardware as in such a way as well. All the earlier existing switches, they have stopped making that end of line, end of sale, and they have all the only developed this 9K. 91 for AP, 98 for controllers, 92 to 97 for access, distribution, and core level switches. The point being, they are saying that for supporting this reprogrammable network, I need a different hardware, which is ASIC based. So only the devices having this necessary hardware can support the SDN functionality, and also my software should be also capable of supporting the programmability, iOS XE based. We'll get into that in all the hardware software details once we'll start that SDA part. But yes, coming back. So I'm not talking about this, not talking about this. Let's focus on SDA because this is where it is, or this is the solution which is relevant to our wireless section. So when I say SDA, right, software defined access, it is used for both your wired network configuration management and automation and also for your wireless. All right. So in the wireless CCI Enterprise wireless, I'll try that I will not just limit you to this understanding and explanation of the technology classes, but we'll also see the wired section as well because then it will make a complete sense. As I said, wireless is built on top of the wire. So here it will be about your CAT switches. So we'll talk about different roles here, okay? My edge nodes, my control nodes, my border nodes, fusion router, fusion device, all those things, fabric, non-fabric, everything. But it will primarily be about the catalyst switches. Wireless section will be about your SDA aware or software aware WLCs and the APs, as I told you. So 9100 APs and 9800 um, WLCs. That's why in the newer version next year from onwards, they have this controller only predominantly, not your AROS based or 3504 or 3504 or something. All those controllers are, I think, revamped. But I hope you got the idea that yes, this is how things are changing, how enterprise wireless has been introduced, has been around from like last 4 or 5 years, and how again they are rebranding and changing things, adding, removing. So like they tend to do after every relevant time for 5 years. So this is the major change they have brought up, and also because more and more networks and more people are managing wireless via cloud solutions like Meraki. So that's why Cisco has also said, okay, let's get comfortable with the Meraki as well. All right, so that's one more part. I hope this general discussion about the overall solution, overall product family, overall technology overview, what we are going to cover. So I haven't shown you what actually is there in the content. Let me come to that. So basically, if I talk, if not many of you are aware, your lab exam is not just a single exam, I should say. Earlier in CCIE, to get your CCIE number, you were supposed to, get cleared with your CCIE written, and then it was your lab exam. Now it is no CCIE written, your and core, let's say your core paper of the CCNP is needed to be eligible for the lab paper of CCI. So in case you want to be CCI certified in enterprise infrastructure or enterprise wireless, so for both this CCNP and core exam is needed, right? Then only you can go for CCI enterprise infrastructure or enterprise wireless lab exam. Lab exam is your 8-hour exam, out of which your 3 hour is for design and your remaining 5 hours are for do design. After design, it is deploy, operate, and optimize. So in design, you are given all those chats, your phone calls, your recordings, your meeting summary, your texts, and based on that, they will ask you that okay, this is something that we want, and from you as an expert, they are asking what solution you prefer, what solution you advise, what's you recommend, and all those. So they'll give you some options and you need to select the answers as per that. It is a tricky one, I should say, not many questions, but very tricky questions. Very in-depth understanding of the network design we need to have for that. So in our trainings, we also focus on that. And then we also focus for the, implementation part of the network with the wireless, wired both. And we break things, we troubleshoot things, and we rectify the problem, and then we try to see, okay, how in a fast way, in a more secure way, efficiently we can troubleshoot. Or you got my point, right? So that's what CCI, the expertise, is all about. That's where the demand of the expert people comes. That's why they pay us so much, and why CCI provide us a good, handsome career and pay scale, I believe. Okay, what I wanted to say. These things will be there. I'll keep talking about again and again all these things. If you need clarity in between, you can always ask me in the technology sessions. But if you want, you need a dedicated session for this lab preparation. What is expected for the lab, all the documentation, the visa, the lab booking. Don't worry, leave that to us. So this is end-to-end training. Will be helping you for everything that is needed to provide you with your CCA number, right? Your practice sessions, rack sessions. We have a in-house lab. Don't worry about that. We'll be giving you the access to that. We'll be giving you all the necessary material which is there. Because earlier there was a book, but nowadays that book CCI and CCI Wireless version 3 study guide is not if sufficient. It is a great resource, so you'll get that, and along with that, some SDA books and whatever study material you require, I'll give you my lab workbooks, my study notes, theory, lab, practical, everything covering all this enterprise wireless exam. Okay, so yeah, end to end. So you will be with us from the training to towards getting your number. All right. So we'll be doing on the real rack. Most of it is going to be hardware, all my controllers, all my AP, ICE. So whatever is supposed to be, let's say the ESXi based VM, that will be VM, and whatever is supposed to be my hardware device, that is going to be the hardware. All right. Yes. So about this, I was saying that if you feel like, okay, you need a separate expert session, we can have a separate expert session for these things. So no problem in that. So if you have a good laptop, you can try to build the lab on your will be giving you the support, the access of the rack, the PNet, files, everything, images. But you'll be having your rack access of, I don't know if it is 120, 150 or 160 hours. So just get in touch with the, concerned people. They'll better guide you in this, reference. But yes, one thing you'll be helped with, as I'm saying again and again, because that's the USP that we have, that being it end-to-end training, you'll be helped with like every necessary resource to get your number. That's all I can say, right? I believe that's it from my side. If I don't have anything to talk about, if I have anything to talk about, we'll have a different session, another one. Till then, all the best, and I hope this session has been useful to you in any way. Thank you so much for attending this one. Bye bye. Take care.